So we are just about coming up on 7 o'clock, so I thought we'd go ahead and get started. I just have a couple of announcements before we get to this evening's webinar. Thank you all for registering, for showing up. Should be a great topic for us, especially as many of us may be cleaning out our closets and wondering what to do with all this stuff now. We are living in an increasingly virtual and online world, so this is a great opportunity for many of us to learn how to better interact with that world. Some of the announcements I have, I do want to, first of all, just mention that, you know, the library, we are still here for you. We are offering programs. We're doing a lot on our social media. We have, I'm rescheduling a lot of the programs that we had previously scheduled. We're trying to find new dates and new platforms. Some of the programs I can tell you that have been rescheduled already. We do have coming up on May 5th, which is actually the original date we had scheduled. Author William Hazelgrove will be presenting The Noble Train, Heroic Expedition That Saved the American Revolution. So for all you history buffs out there, that should be a good one. We also have, we were very sad previously to have to cancel on Barry Bradford. As we know, he is one of our most popular speakers here at the library. And I am pleased to say we do have a rescheduled date for Barry Bradford for his program Political Satire, From Mark Twain to Stephen Colbert. And that has been rescheduled to May 17th, which is a Sunday at 2 p.m. So you can find that information on our online calendar. We are also putting this programming information into our e-newsletters, which I assume is how many of you found out about this evening's program. So keep looking for that, keep checking our website. We're adding new programming all the time. Another thing we're doing in addition to programming is we just recently launched a chat service. So if you are on our website and you're looking over to the right side of the website, you'll see a We Are Here, chat with us. So you can just click on that. Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 will be available to answer your questions. We have started to increase a lot of our online offerings. So we have a lot of ebooks, a lot of audiobooks to download and listen to. We're continually adding content, so keep looking for that. Let's see. One other program I did want to mention that we're able to reschedule in the virtual environment is Job Search Like a Pro. So on May 11th, we'll be having Erica Reckham, who is a certified professional resume writer. She will be offering a resume class on May 11th and an interviewing class on May 18th. So we just finalized that. So I don't know if that's on the calendar yet. So you may be getting a little insider information here, but that information will be forthcoming and you can mark that on your calendar. All right. Let's see, looks like we've got about 20 people here, so that looks like a good number. I am going to go ahead and turn things over to this evening's presenter. I'll hand it over to you, Michael.
Kristen, maybe you could mention that this will be online somewhere.
Oh, yes. Thank you for the reminder. Michael was gracious enough to allow us to record this. So it will be available after the webinar. So if you're trying to remember, oh, what did he say? And you didn't take notes fast enough, we will be putting that available, probably be putting that on our YouTube channel for 30 days. So that will be something where you'll need the link in order to access it. But we will be making that available. It'll be on our website. So so that'll be for about 30 days that'll be available. So thank you, Michael.
Sure thing. Okay. Thanks for coming, everyone. My name is Mike Gershbein. I have a technology training business called Very Smart People. It's got a pop-up that my internet connection is unstable. So let me do one thing that hopefully won't kick me off. If I do get kicked off,
We'll still be here for you.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully that fixed it on my end. I don't want to be breaking up for you guys. Let me check my internet speed. But that's not great either. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Now, I see somebody, oh, so my name is Mike Gershbein. I have a technology training company called Very Smart People, taught at your library. I'm doing a lot of virtual training these days, libraries and other places. And this is an interesting, timely one we were doing. Like Kristen said, you may be cleaning out your house right now. You probably won't be having any garage sales for quite some time. It looks like at least, well, through May. We'll see whether garage sales are considered an essential business come June. Some of the things I'm going to talk about, you have to interact with people. So you may be showing up at people's houses at some point and exchanging goods. And hopefully if you've ordered food by now, you have a sense of what that's like. One thing I want to mention before I get into the content here is you've got both a chat and a Q&A option. And so one thing that I'd like you to do is just go ahead and, assuming you can find these, if you have a question about what I'm talking about, you can type it into either one of those, and I'll answer your question when it makes sense to answer it. I can see all your questions right next to me. So just know that if you type something, I will answer it at some point. We won't do it with any anything verbal, just because it can get a little bit confusing that way. You don't have to raise your hand or anything like that. Virtually raise your hand. Just go ahead and type in your question and I will answer it. But anyway, back to our topic at hand. You know, this is a really good time for selling online. You've got a ton of options now beyond eBay. A number of people who do this class or do selling classes or buying classes concentrate on eBay, which is a great option for you. But there are lots of other options that work as well. And you know, depending on what you're selling and how you're selling it, they may work better for you than something like eBay. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, I'm trusting that everyone can see this. So the main places I'm going to talk about today are, like I said, eBay, which has been around a long, long time. It's still known as one of the best places to sell online. There are a lot of good reasons to use it. Craigslist, which has been around as long as eBay, and it's interesting because if you go to the website for Craigslist, it looks like it's older than the internet. It really hasn't changed a whole lot over the years. They actually just launched an app fairly recently. It's an old-fashioned looking Craigslist. I like to say it's the online version of your newspaper's classifieds. Facebook Marketplace and selling groups, those have a ton of potential. That's where I've been doing a lot of my selling lately. Those are both used, well, I'll get into more detail, but you can use them to sell locally, like a garage sale, or just find other people throughout the country with interest in things that you're selling. Nextdoor, which is kind of the hyper-local Facebook. Then Amazon, and I have to mention Amazon because Amazon is Amazon, and Amazon is huge. And in theory, there are reasons for listing on Amazon. People can list products on Amazon, and but overall, Amazon, I'm kind of going to breeze through it because it's not easy to use, it's expensive to use, and overall, I just don't recommend it. But I will speak on it for a couple of seconds. Now, one thing I should also mention is that everything I'm going to be talking about has to do with individual sellers selling on these things. If you have, I can kind of touch on it a little bit, where if you have some kind of store, you're making masks, selling masks. It's actually getting to be a big business right now. People selling masks out of their houses. Like I've bought a couple of those from Etsy. But you know, if you've got a small business type of thing, the rules will be a little bit different on things like eBay or things like Facebook, largely eBay. So I'm really not going to talk about that a whole lot, but just keep that in mind that is the case. So as far as eBay goes, eBay's been around a long time. Lots of people know about it. Lots of people use it. One of the first places you think of to go and buy something. And you have potentially a global audience if you want, as well as a local audience. It is, now whenever I use a word like complicated, I always feel like I should put an asterisk next to it because I don't want to overstate how complicated it is. But that being said, it's a little more work than selling on some of these other places. And that actually may be a better way to phrase it. It's more work intensive than selling on some of these other things. It takes some work to sell on eBay, especially if you're selling a bunch of stuff. You really have to be kind of committed to the process. It's also expensive to sell on eBay. They charge you, various people charge you, and you sell an item for $200. You don't walk away with $200. You give it to the house. You give some money to the house and some money to another house. I'll get to those fees in a little bit. Craigslist has been around a long time. It's kind of the second place that people have thought of as far as buying and selling online. And it tends to be seen as a local thing. In theory, you could list your items in Craigslist in other states, other towns. But Craigslist, there's a Chicago Craigslist, and actually even more local than that. There's Craigslist for your area. Unfortunately, like I said, the site has barely changed over the years. It really, we'll look at it, but it really does look like the way it's always looked, an old website. And it kind of has a reputation for some of the buyers being a little bit flaky or sketchy or dishonest. And you know, we can kind of talk about that when we get into it. Facebook, which is the one that I'm probably most enthusiastic about these days, although eBay I am in a lot of places as well, is a free option for you. You do have to be a member of Facebook in order to use it. So if you are not sold on Facebook, then you probably won't be using it. But you know, 2 billion people worldwide using it, so that's potential market for you to sell your stuff, and you can sell it either local or you can sell it beyond your town and your state. It is newer. A lot of people don't know about it as an option for buying and selling, so you have a smaller audience for that type of thing. Nextdoor is another free option. I think of Nextdoor kind of as your local garage sale, and you're really dealing with your neighbors and neighboring towns, basically, but you also lose that exposure. So whereas when you're selling on eBay, you're listing something to the world, on Nextdoor, you're really listing to a few suburbs. Now, Amazon, both Amazon and eBay, by the way, are indexed by Google. So that is kind of one advantage of listing something on eBay or Amazon. A lot of times you'll Google something that you're shopping for, and you'll see you definitely see the Amazon ad pop up, but you also may see it on eBay as well. So that gets you extra exposure. But like I was saying, it is expensive to list stuff. It's complicated to list stuff, and there's a lot of competition there, so it tends to not be my first choice. So let's start talking about eBay a little bit. Once again, if you have questions as I'm going through, feel free to just type them in, and I'll address them when it's appropriate. So eBay gives you options to sell throughout the world, sell something nationally, sell locally. For the most part, if you're selling on eBay, you're going to be shipping something. That being said, people sell cars on eBay. It's set up to do that. You know, you've got a sweet ride. You can list it on eBay, and people have to come pick it up, or I guess you deliver it to them if they're willing to give you extra money. So you can sell stuff locally on it, but for the most part, you're looking at selling stuff throughout the U.S. My wife, she had a hip surgery, and she had to wear some type of brace, and it was a weird oblong box, and I think she had it listed on eBay for $15, and people from England were contacting her to buy it, and the price to ship it to England would have been probably more than the price of the actual thing. But anyway, there's an option. Now, as far as pricing goes with eBay, that's where you kind of have to pay attention to whether it's worth it for you to use it or how much you actually walk away with. So the way eBay prices it, eBay off the top takes what's called a final value fee, meaning you sell that beautiful item for $200, eBay takes $20. At the end of the month, you get a bill from eBay, the bill, and then they take the money out of your account, and that's $20 that you're out of. So the item you sold for $200, you're now down to $180. that you're walking away with. Now, you do need, as an individual seller, you need to have a PayPal account set up. Some of you may already have PayPal accounts set up from shopping on other websites. If you aren't familiar with PayPal, it's free to set up, and most people use it they link their credit card to it, and then when you go shop on another website, rather than give them your credit card information, you just log into PayPal and it acts as an intermediary. But when you use PayPal with eBay as a seller, not necessarily as a buyer, but as a seller, you do need to link your checking account to PayPal. And then both the final value fee and an extra PayPal fee for processing the payment is going to come out of your checking account. So that PayPal fee is 2.9% plus 30 cents. So you sold that item for 200 bucks. It's 2.9% of that. Here I do math. So let's say about $8. 2.9% plus 30 cents. So once again, $200 item, subtract 20, subtract another $8. So you're down to about $170 that you're walking away after paying eBay and paying PayPal. Now, the other thing you may end up having to pay for is packing supplies. You may need to buy a box. You may need to buy packing peanuts. You may need to buy the bubble wrap, the tape, all that kind of stuff. Hopefully, you've been saving this stuff up before you're ready to sell online. So you have the stuff sitting in your basement. I've got a whole section for it. If not, you're going to have to go and buy that stuff. So that may end up costing a little bit money. Now, as far as sales tax goes, they just last year started collecting sales tax for sales where it's required for that particular state. So it's something like 20 states. So if you buy something on eBay, if it's a state that collects sales tax, that's in your final payment, you'll have to pay a little extra percentage, whatever that state collects. Now, as a seller, you really don't have to worry about this. You don't have anything to do with this. eBay will tack it on when it's appropriate. You don't have to figure anything out, and eBay collects it, eBay gives it to the state. However, that is something you should know, because people may buy something from you, may have to pay sales tax on it. They may come back and say, hey, why'd I have to pay sales tax on it? And the answer is that eBay requires you to do that. And actually, state legislation for internet sales requires you to pay it. And if somebody asks how secure it is to provide your banking information online, and that's always a tricky question for me to answer. Now, I will say that PayPal is used on about 80% of websites or e-commerce websites. And from my perspective, if you're doing any type of online shopping, if you don't trust giving your credit card online, then you don't trust giving your credit card online, and there may or may not be a reason for that. I probably can't say that much to make you feel better about it, other than it's a pretty common way of e-commerce at this point. That being said, when you're using eBay, what you're doing is you're avoiding giving your credit card to all kinds of different companies. You're giving it to one intermediary company that then does a secure transaction for you. So my preference, if you're going to do online shopping, is actually, I'm sorry, I said eBay, I meant PayPal. My preference when doing online shopping is to actually use PayPal versus giving my credit card. Because if you're giving your credit card out to every different website, that's a whole bunch of different websites that are doing processing, versus PayPal, which has its whole system set up to do this processing, and then you've just got it at one place. Either way, if you're looking to do online shopping, at some point you're going to have to deal with giving up this information online. Now, auction or buy it now are your two options. When eBay started out, eBay was known as kind of an auction house. People would bid on items, and then the top bid would get the item. A lot of people, probably the majority, just list something as a price, which is a buy it now option. So list something for $100. Somebody gives you $100 and it's sold. An auction lasts by default for 7 days. You can change that, but it lasts for 7 days. Buy it now stays up until somebody buys it. So you want to sell that item for 200 bucks. You can put it up, and you're not in a hurry. Put it up there, list it for 200 bucks, and someday, hopefully, somebody will give you 200 bucks for it. You can do both at once. You can list an item, say that you want it as an auction and to buy it now. And if somebody offers you 200 bucks, then they get it as a buy it now. But as soon as that auction starts, somebody puts a bid on your item, then buy it now isn't an option anymore. But if you wanted to do that, but if you know what you want to get for an item, then it's probably best to do buy it now, so that people can just pay for it. Now, one word about auction: the way the auctions work eBay kind of handles the amount that the auction goes up every time somebody bids. So if an item is listed and somebody bids $10 for that item, the bidding doesn't necessarily start at $10. That's the maximum amount that they will bid. eBay determines the number where the auction will start. Well, let's say somebody bids $20. Okay, I go in, I bid $20 maximum on an item. Maybe the bidding on that item starts at $5 then, and then somebody else comes in, they see that the bid is at $5 and they bid $10. They don't have the top bid because I bid $20 on that item previously. So instead, that bid will increase to something like $10. If that second person was to come in and bid $30 on the item, that's their maximum bid. So that they would then be beating me on the item. It would be over my $20 maximum bid. So it's a little bit confusing as how they handle it, but they do try to, the amount that somebody bids is not actually necessarily the amount that they'll pay. That's the maximum amount that they'll pay. And then eBay kind of handles the iterations that it increases. Now, like I said, you do need to have a PayPal account. One nice thing about eBay is that all your interactions with the people who are buying your merchandise are handled through eBay. So you don't have to give out your email. You don't have to give out your phone number. People will email eBay with a question about something, and it will come through to your personal email, but your personal information isn't exposed. They just your account information. And eBay will also handle any kind of dispute that you may have if, as a seller, if people have a problem with the stuff that they got from you. eBay sells really everything at this point, and you can review sellers, you can review buyers, give them up to 5 stars, and the more stuff you sell, then people will know that you're a better seller, assuming you are a good seller, and people are out there giving you 5-star reviews, and vice versa. You can give the buyers reviews as well. So when it comes to listing on eBay, the main things you're going to be putting up are a headline, which is a short description of the item that you're putting up there, and you can put a bunch of different words for that mean the same thing for what you're listing, whatever you think will catch people's eyes. So if I was to list a record, album, vinyl, any of that type of stuff, or free shipping, or perfect condition, those are kind of eye-catching headline descriptions. And then you have a longer description where you say everything about the product to make it appealing, also to point out flaws with it. If there are such things, you do want to make sure that people are aware of those. You'll put pictures. You can put up to 12 pictures of your items. You can put very detailed pictures from every angle. I already kind of talked about auction or buy it now. You do need to decide if you're going to do this as an auction or you're going to do it as a buy it now option, or list them both. We'll talk a little bit about kind of how you can start to think about how to price your items. And as far as how long it should last by auction, most auctions are 7 days, but you can go up to 10 days if you're really. I think the options are 1, 3, 5, 7, and 10 days as far as how long you should make it last. Now, best offer is an option for you as well. And what best offer says is that you've got this item listed for $200. Maybe you're actually willing to accept less for it. And you can say when you're setting up an item, you can say, oh, if somebody gives me if somebody offers me 175 or more, I'll look at that as an offer. So what happens in that case is if somebody really tries to lowball you and offer you $100 for that item, you won't even see that best offer. You don't even know that it exists. Somebody goes in and you said you've got this limit of $175 minimum for best offer, and somebody offers you $180, you'll get an email that says, Joe Smith offered you $180 for this. Will you take it? You don't have to. Maybe you're just happy to get rid of the thing, so you're fine with taking $180 for that person. Or maybe it was only up for a day and you want to keep it up for a lot longer. Either way, you're not held to that best offer, whether you want to take it or not. Now, you can set a reserve as well in an auction. So in that case, what it means is you've got various kind of strategies for listing an item for auction. You can list an item starting at $0. And the nice thing about that is somebody goes into eBay and they see an item and they see, oh, $0, no bids on it. I should be able to steal this. And they'll go in and they'll place a bid on that item. And then that becomes the first bid. And then hopefully, probably that bid will just keep increasing a lot and they won't get anything close to $0. But, it's kind of a thing that will tempt people. You can start the bidding at a higher amount if you want. So, you want to get $200 and you start the bidding at $50. So that's an option for you. But keep in mind that that may scare some people off because they're saying that higher amount of $50. You can set a reserve price, meaning that you've got something listed as an auction, but it doesn't go up for auction until people have hit a certain amount that you've designated. And people won't know what that reserve price is before they're bidding, or even after they bid, unless they've hit that reserve price. Meaning you list that $200 item, you can say, oh, I'm going to set a reserve price of $50. And then if somebody bids $25 on that item, then the item won't be up, the auction won't have started. Nobody will have actually bid on it because they haven't hit that reserve price. And after 7 days, if nobody hits that reserve price, you don't have to you don't sell the item to people. The auction never really started. So if you really want to be safe, you can set a reserve price. The issue with that is that there is a fee to do that. So I've got the fee listed here, $5 or 7.5% of the reserve price, whichever one is higher. So, you put that $50, set a reserve price of $50. It's, I guess it would be $5 extra for the price. So those are kind of the things you need to think about when you're listing it as an auction. Now you do have an option to offer free shipping. I'll show you shipping when I go ahead and go into eBay and we do a little bit of a listing of an item. But if you've got a small item, it's going to cost a few bucks to ship, $5 to ship, and you'll know how much it ships when you list an item. I'll show you why. But if you know that it's going to be expensive, or you can get one of those boxes from the Postal Service that are set price, maybe as an extra teaser, you offer free shipping on it. You think you're going to get $200, it's a ring, and you're going to get $200 for it, free shipping, maybe that will bring people over. Most of the time, I include shipping on it, but that's certainly another way that you can potentially entice people. Those are the basic ground rules. I'm going to go ahead and go into eBay. Feel free, once again, to type in a question, any of the stuff that I was just speaking about, or anything that I'll be talking about in eBay. So eBay, now you do need to have an account on eBay in order to sell. If you have an account that you've been buying stuff with, that's fine, same account. If you don't have an account set up on eBay, then you need to set up an account. The only difference as far as selling is that, like I said, you need to link your PayPal account with it, with your checking account. Now, typically before I sell anything on eBay, what I'll do to kind of give me a sense of pricing is I'll do a search for items that are similar to what I'm listing. This is always the example that I use because my wife collects these, Monax Pedalware Depression Glass. Do a search on it, and there's a couple different things you need to look at when you do the search. So on one hand, I did it, actually, let me do, here, let's look, I'm gonna do specifically, I'm gonna do a cake platter. Do a search on it, and I see, oh, there's a cake platter that's listed that looks similar to mine. They've got it listed at 800 or at 850 plus 874 shipping. There's other ones as well. And this, on one hand, this is 850 with a buy it now plus 1155 shipping. So I can see how much stuff is listed for, which is semi-useful because it's helpful for me to know what people are listening for. The one thing this doesn't really tell me is what people are buying it for. Because it may be that somebody lists something and, oh, they've got that listed for 20 bucks, and this may have been up for a year now. This may not be worth 20 bucks. And nobody's buying it. So that's not really helpful to me. Well, I don't want to list something for a price that nobody's going to buy for unless I'm really willing to wait. So what you'll see on eBay here over on the left is you've got an option to only show sold items. And they'll show you what items have sold in the not too distant past. So, refresh. Usually it refreshes by itself. Try this again. There we go. So now I can actually see, for example, that this item was purchased for $40 and $12 shipping. This item was up for auction. They got one bid and the person won it for $12.99 plus shipping. So, it's telling me what these things actually sold for. It sold for $122. Ooh, look at that. It must be rare. 29 bids for this thing. This one saucer and cup up to $122. Wish I had one of those. Anyway, that really gives you kind of more of a sense of what people are willing to pay for these things versus just looking at what sellers are listing the things at, which may or may not be off. Now, another nice thing about looking for stuff that's already listed on eBay is you'll see that there's an option under these listings to sell one like this. So let's say somebody has gone ahead and listed, oh, this is a great cup, look at it, 126 bucks. Okay, let's say I've got one of these at home. I'm gonna say sell one like this. Click on that. And then eBay will launch a form for me to fill out for my listing with a bunch of stuff pre-filled in because it's similar to that one. And I can change this form, but it's already doing part of the work for me. And I'm going to show you this, and then in a second, I'm going to show you another way to go ahead and get in there. But it gives me this headline, nice, blah, 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 blah. You know, maybe that doesn't, I have no interest in the word nice, so I can cut that out and say, like new, I can add photos and add my own photos and add my own description. But it gives me a little shortcut as far as kind of the specifics of this item because somebody else already filled out this form. Now, if you can't do that, or you don't want to, or if you can't find something similar, or you don't want to do that, you do have kind of an option. When you go into eBay to sell, right at the top, and it's a similar type of thing. It's going to take you to that same form where either you put in the keywords for the thing you're looking for, or if it has a numbered label on the side, it's in a box, you can try searching that and see if the thing comes up. I'm going to go ahead and search one more time, Monex, pedalware, cake, and say go. And it's going to go ahead, look through other listings, and I can say sell one like this, or I can just create a brand new listing from scratch if I don't find one that's like the one that I'd like to list. I'll go ahead one more time and say sell one like this. Use condition, it's depression glass, so by definition, it's used. And then once again, I'll get that same form where I can go ahead. Silver, is that a real term or did they mean to put silver? I don't know. Beautiful condition, whatever. And 4 characters left. We'll limit the number of characters you have, 100 something characters. Now, oh, look at this. When you choose your item, if you choose one that matches another item, then you can choose a kind of a category, meaning this is depression glass, Macbeth Evans, depression glass in a specific type. If this was a car, you'd be choosing a car. And then underneath, we'll give you this item specifics page. And these are all different depending on what type of item you're selling. So if I had a car, it would say, you know, engine type and gas mileage or miles and all that type of stuff. Whereas if it's a depression glass, it's going to say color and condition and what type of object it is. I'm not, it usually gives me more. I'm not sure. Oh yeah, so is it original or reproduction, antique, original, et cetera, et cetera. So these are all kind of little specific things to categorize your item that change based on what type of item you categorize your item under. Once again, if you find an item that's similar to yours, it'll come up pre-listed with this category. You can change it if you don't like the category that they've given, but typically you'll be going with what they give you. And then you can add up to 12 photos. This is one place where it's nice to do if you're using a phone, because you can just either snap a bunch of pictures with your phone using the eBay app, or if you've got them on your camera roll on your phone, just add them. But in this case, just like adding any file to the internet, I'll go ahead and say I want to add it from my computer. Select 4 photos, up to 12 photos. Maybe in this photo, I'm showing that there's a little bit of a defect. There's a little bit of a problem with it. Or in this one, I want to point that out so people don't get angry with me when I send it to them and they find that there's a little chip right there. And then down here, I've got the description, which in this case is this person filled it out. It's fairly short, but I can go ahead and change it. Sometimes, once again, I sell movies or I sell records, and I'll go into something like Amazon, cut out all the information about the song listing, song 2, producer, and all that type of stuff. Go as detailed as you want in the description, including, once again, any flaws on the thing that you're listing. Now, eBay will try to recommend a pricing strategy for you. And I have never liked the recommendations that they've given to me. As far as I'm concerned, you can look at it, but most of the pricing that they've given me has not been the way that I've wanted to list them. One thing, I don't like starting bids for auctions at a certain number. I like to start auctions at 0 because I assume they're going to get up to a certain number anyway. But I don't know, eBay could be right. But I'll go ahead and hit change. I have an option to either do an auction or to do a buy it now, or toggle them both and do them both on the same thing. But just for demonstration purposes, I'm going to say that I want to do an auction. I'll start auctioning at 0. Although you can, like eBay was recommending, start auction at a certain amount. Somebody would have to bid $5 in order to start that auction. I'll go ahead and start it at 0. More options here. Do I want to allow somebody to make an offer before the auction, before somebody bids on it? I'll allow people at a minimum of $10 to make an offer, or I can just not do that. And you can also choose how many days it goes, 1, 3, 5, 7, or 10. And I'd mentioned the reserve price, which costs money, but if I wanted to, I could set a reserve of $30. And that way, until somebody bids that reserve amount, the auction won't actually be happening. Your other option, buy it now. I know that I want 25 bucks for this item, although I will allow offers. I'll only see offers that are $20 or higher. Somebody wants to offer me 25 bucks, or somebody wants to buy for 25 or offer me, then they can buy for 25, in which case they get it, or they can offer me a certain amount, and maybe they offer me 20, and then I can agree to give it to them. Those are both there as options for you. And then finally, eBay, before you sell stuff, you'll want to measure and weigh your package. So you want to put it in the box with all the packing supplies and stuff like that. Put in the weight. I use my kitchen scale, measure the item. And then eBay will recommend a specific service that you can use, but you can choose another one. If you really want to use UPS or FedEx, you can do it. Over here are your options. If I wanted to, I could say that I'll pay shipping. Now, here's the catch with shipping, is depending on where the person lives, the shipping can be much different. So this is something, a priority mail item that weighs 3.5 pounds with those measurements in the package. Maybe a person who lives in California would cost $23 to ship to them, whereas a person who lives in Glenview, it would cost $9 to ship it to them. The buyer is only going to see the amount that they would have to pay for shipping. They won't see between $9 and $23. They'll see for them it costs $9. So if you're a seller, you don't want to get caught offering free shipping, and then you may end up having to pay $23. That's a little bit risky for you. Generally, you're going to do the buyer pays calculated shipping. Now, if you wanted to, you could change the shipping service, and you'll see all the options here. So they've got UPS Ground as an option, which apparently can get pretty pricey depending on I don't know, but they have the various kind of flat rate envelopes and boxes that you can pick up for free at the post office, and assuming your item fits in that box, you can offer that. So you have various other options. You can choose other ones. Typically, the recommendation they give you is a pretty good one, though, as far as which service to use. And then once this item, so at this point, I'll go ahead and say list it. And once this item sells, meaning somebody either won the bidding or they made me an offer, or not made me an offer on the item, they did the buy it now on the item, then that money will be sent to me in my account. If they're paying for shipping, then that money will go to eBay, and eBay will let me print out the shipping label. It's all done through eBay. You don't have to do it that way, but you get a discount. It's a lot easier. So you can print out the shipping label from eBay, stick it on that package, stick it on that envelope that you've already prepared, waltz on down to the post office, throw it in that big box that they've got next to the desk for Amazon returns and eBay purchases, and send it off to the person. And eBay handles all the kind of money coming over, and you won't ship until eBay actually takes the money from the person. So you'll know that you've gotten the money from the person. And then at the end of the month, you will get the bill So that's eBay. What questions do you have for me about any of the stuff that I've been talking about with eBay so far? Salver is a thing. Okay, there you go. See, somebody always knows one of these things when I teach it. It's more fun when I start doing things that I really don't know anything about, and I just make stuff up. So, Salver is a flat tray. Thank you. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's move on. Feel free to ask me any questions that come to mind, and I'll come back to them. Craigslist, like I said, is largely known as a local selling service. In theory, you could list something in Austin Craigslist. Oh, you know what? Somebody asked, before I go on, somebody asked how returns are handled if the customer is unhappy, which is a really good question. Overall, these things, you don't offer returns. It would have to be a serious issue. So if your item was, if you listed the item and it looked blue and you never said the color and it turns out it was red, you know, something that was totally misrepresented when they sent it to you. Sometimes you'll see on eBay something about returns, and I didn't really talk about this, but there are stores on eBay. So there may be people running small businesses or even large businesses selling through eBay where the rules are much different, and they will typically offer returns. And you'll see when you go into their store and look at their items, they'll have their rules for return. Most individual sellers, you're really only going to do a return if you seriously misrepresented something and the person bought it, which doesn't mean that, you know, you can't do it. Somebody doesn't like the thing and they email you back and they say they don't like it and you think you could have gotten more money for it. So you say, fine, if you want to pay for shipping it back to me, then I'll give you your money back. But assuming that you represented the item correctly, returns aren't a thing. That being said, if it came down to it and somebody was unhappy with their purchase, eBay would be in there to negotiate it, where if somebody said, hey, Mike totally misrepresented this item that he sold me, I want my money back. And I said, no, what I described exactly as is, and I'm not giving you your money back. That's when eBay steps in and tries to figure something out. And that's all part of eBay's process. So it's hard to say. A lot of that depends on, you know, if this is the first item that you sold versus you've been a seller for a while, or if that's the first item that they bought, or they have a low rating, which is why you rate buyers and sellers. You know, all that stuff is going to play into it as far as kind of how eBay settles that stuff. Okay, Craigslist is local selling. Now, one nice thing about Craigslist compared to all of the other things I'm talking about is you don't actually need an account on Craigslist to sell on Craigslist. Now, you may want an account because it gives you a little bit more kind of control over the stuff that you're listing on Craigslist, but you don't need it. Now, it's free to list items on Craigslist, except for a couple different categories, a couple of the larger categories where it is $5 in order to list something like a car on Craigslist. So the way you list it, I keep kind of forgetting whether I'm giving this in enough detail. Craigslist is divided up into different cities. So there's a Chicago Craigslist, there's an Austin Craigslist, there's a Des Moines Craigslist. You know, there's Craigslist for every city. So in theory, you could list in one of these other cities, but mostly you're doing it local. And actually, you're doing it very local, depending on the area of Chicago. They break it up into a few main areas. Now, your listings go for 7 days, and you can renew them after 48 hours. You get a list of listings there, and your item slowly moves down the list. And after 48 hours, you go in and renew the item. It will pop back up to the top of the list. Actually, you have 7 days to renew. Once it goes beyond 30 days, then you actually have to do a brand new repost of the item. And they have a bunch of other stuff. Now, if you haven't seen Craigslist recently, it looks a lot like it did many, many years ago. Possibly the ugliest website on the internet, but I guess they're doing something right. They're still around. When I go into Craigslist, you can see, even though I typed in Craigslist, actually, I think I put in Craigslist.com, I got chicago.craigslist.org. because actually in this case, probably looking at my location versus I'm not logged into my account right now. But certainly if it was in my account, it would know that I was in Chicago. And you can see here are the things that are for sale mixed in with jobs and houses for rent and things like that. So you can go in, see what type of, let's do musical instruments. I don't think I've ever done that on Craigslist, but I bet there's some good stuff. And you don't want to go too far to get that guitar. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want to look at items within 10 miles of my zip code, 76. And these are all musical instruments here. I'll narrow it down to guitar. Here's oh, that's an amp. Here's a guitar, a Gibson Les Paul. That is EJ. I don't know what that means, but it's within 8 miles. Here, let's look at this one. This is $125. What a deal. Ibanez. Go ahead and click on that thing. Semi-interested in it, and they've got a bunch of pictures on it, pictures of it, showing me on a map their general area. Oh, it's at a pawn shop. There you go. Belmont near Central. This is $125. I decide I want this, and it gives me a little bit of information about it down here. This is actually a bad example. Well, I'll go ahead. I'm going to try it anyway. Typically, what will happen is you want to buy this item. There's this reply button up here. I'll hit reply. And this is what you get. You get this weird long email that doesn't look like any real email at sale.craigslist.org. They happen to have included their phone number. Most people don't do that. It's getting a little more popular because people will do their mobile phones and you can text them, but most people don't do that. Typically, you've got this email. I'll click on that and I'll say, hey, that guitar looks great. I'll give you $100 for it. When can I look at it? They'll email me back. And this all happens through Craigslist. This is why it's a stake email. So I get an email in my own personal email saying their reply, but they don't actually ever see my email unless I give it to them. All they get is this kind of fake little email there. So it gives you a little bit of security as far as interacting with people. At some point, you may end up handing them your real email or giving them your cell phone once you decide this actually is going to go through so that they can text you or call you in order to set up the deal. So as a seller, I'm going to go ahead and hit post. Like I said, they break it up into categories. I'm North Chicagoland. For sale by owner. I'll sell a boat. I don't know anything about boats, so we'll call this a Windjammer 26-inch sail boat. If any of you know about boats, I'm sure I just misrepresented whatever that thing is, but that's okay. And I want $1,000 for this. If the text here is black, that means that it's not required. If it's green, it is required. Put in my zip code. Because it's a boat, they'll give me some kind of settings or details that I can or cannot fill out, although the green ones are required. So this is 26 inches. Well, I guess it wouldn't be inches, would it? It's like a Spinal Tap thing. Let's say 26 feet. I can't hear you people laughing at me right now. All right, English. This is a sailboat and beautiful Windjammer, barely used, still floats. Okay, my description of it. I will put in my email, but because it says replies you see on mail relay, they're not going to actually see my email. They're going to use that funky Craigslist email. If I wanted to, I could include a phone number for texting, phone number for, it could even be my real phone number if I say phone numbers are okay. I generally don't do that, but at a certain point, like I said, you may end up giving it to them. I'll say continue. Then I get this silly page, which I don't know how useful this is. Shows it on a map, 60076. This is where 60076 is. So that's where my listing is. I'll say continue. Add images. I know these aren't a sailboat, but They're all like, done with images, and hit publish, and then this thing will go out there at the top of the list for sale or for boats, and people will go ahead and reply to me. Now, earlier I'd said that it has a little bit of a reputation for some sketchy users, some flaky users, and I tell you from experience that is almost everything you list on Craigslist, you're going to have to deal with some flakiness. You're either going to have people who set up appointments and don't show up. It's well known for scams. You should never accept any type of check on Craigslist. Craigslist tells you that. Don't accept a check. I will tell you that. Probably a million people on the internet will tell you the same thing, because you get scams or you get people calling you, and I swear this has happened to me multiple times. It's not just something I've read about, where somebody will be like, you know, I really want that item. I'll actually pay you more than what you're asking for. I'll send you a check and hold it on to me, and hold on to it for me, or I'll give you a check when I pick it up. And checks are always either counterfeit or stolen in those cases. So really, Craigslist is a cash-only thing. In theory, you could accept something like PayPal or Venmo for it, but it almost always is something where you hand over cash. And then, you know, the other thing that happens is there have been unsavory incidents with people who come and steal your item or do even worse. And what a lot of towns have done in this case is police departments have kind of set up Craigslist exchange zones. So they'll have like official signs, or it'll be on their website, where you meet the buyer at the police department at the parking lot, and you do your transaction there. Or you do it at a parking lot of a Jewel during the day, something like that, you know, and where there are cameras, that type of thing. There's a lot of people are dealing with it. I've had a couple large things that I've sold recently where I really couldn't bring them to a Target parking lot, you know, like a bed and a media console that I sold recently, and I had to have people come to my house. But overall, Craigslist, you do have to be a little bit careful with the people that you interact with on Craigslist. With Craigslist type of things, I'm starting to like Facebook a little bit more, which I'll talk about in a minute, and I'll tell you why. Any kind of questions about Craigslist before I move on? Nobody's correcting me on my sailboat. That's good. Okay. How does Craigslist, you know what? I've had that question about how does Craigslist make money before. So I should have an answer for it. I can tell you that they do charge for some services. There's not most of those free ads. So that is my guess as to how they make money. Next, oh no, I went too far. Facebook Marketplace, Facebook buy and sell groups. These have been around for a couple of years now, and they are both a combination of kind of local Craigslist sales or more of a national or global sale for people who are interested in very specific types of kind of collectibles or specific types of things of interest to specific types of people. I'll tell you what I mean in a second. It is free to use. Get it from the website or the app. Now, the way that this typically works is that an item will be listed, and Facebook has what's called Messenger built in. That's the one-on-one instant messaging that if you're using a website, it will appear in the bottom right-hand corner. If you're using your phone, it's a separate app, which a lot of you probably have right now because it's one of the most popular apps out there, called the Messenger app. And somebody's interested in something that you're selling, they send you a message over Messenger, and they say, I'll give you $100 for it, and you reply, sounds good, and then you, like Craigslist, you get together and you typically do a cash trade, or you could do something like, once again, PayPal or Venmo. Now, buy and sell groups are also of interest. Facebook Marketplace is your local Craigslist option. Buy and sell groups allows you to find interest groups as far as kind of things that are related to the things that you're selling. So you go up in the attic and you find that old box of Barbies that you had when you were a little girl, a little boy. not to discriminate, but you go and pull that box of Barbies down, and you want to, you know that they're worth some money because they're from the 60s, and you want to get them in the hands of Barbie collectors. There are groups on Facebook that are specifically for buying and selling Barbies. Or maybe you're interested in it. Maybe that's a hobby of yours, and you want to buy and sell them or trade them with other collectors. There are all these kind of interest groups out there. The other type of interest group that's of use to you, and it's a little bit tricky right now in coronavirus times, are what are called garage sale groups. And garage sale groups let you list items in your town or in a couple neighboring towns. And the way that a lot of people use it is when they actually have garage sales, they'll go ahead and post photos of their garage sale to kind of say, hey, this weekend we've got a garage sale. We've got a garage sale coming up, and here's a bunch of the stuff we have listed. Now, the garage sale ones, I think Facebook kind of is doing a cleanup of them, and it has something to do with coronavirus. Last time I tried to look at one, they had gotten rid of all the posts, and they were somehow cleaning it up. So I'm not quite sure how useful those are going to be for a little bit. I'll show you all these options. Kind of fun stuff is my Facebook page right now. Nothing too crude. So when I go to Facebook, here on the left, you see Marketplace. On your app, if you're doing this from a phone or from a tablet, you'll see that little storefront icon. If you don't, you know what, they keep changing the apps around. So if you don't see that Marketplace app, it may be under the 3 horizontal lines that are the menu. They've moved it back and forth, or it may be near the bottom where they've got a few icons. But it's Marketplace there. So, like I said, this is the Craigslist competitor. When you click on Marketplace, you can, let's do a search for guitars in here. And I want it within, let's go within 10 miles of where I live. I don't think I hit enter. There we go. There's somebody in Evanston selling a beautiful acoustic guitar for $60. Maybe that's what I'm looking for. So I'll go ahead and click on it. And they give me a little bit of information. Beat up old guitar, been through the wars. So it's a good description. And sounds really great. That's a very well written description. And I can see that they're in Evanston. If I want to, I can send that person a message and tell them I'll offer them $50 and I'd love to come take a look. And that way we'll you know, work out something in person. Now, here's why I like Facebook a little bit more than Craigslist these days. It gives me a little bit of seller information. So when you're doing Craigslist, one nice thing about it is that all your personal information is hidden, which is kind of nice as a seller. On the other hand, Facebook will give you a little bit more information about the people you're looking at. Now, that's still determined by their privacy settings. So I'm going to go ahead and click on him, but that may end up giving me a lot of information about him, a little bit of information about him. Same thing as if you look at my profile. It's all determined by Facebook privacy settings. But for example, I can see this person only joined in 2019. A lot of times you'll go in there and there've been people who have joined in 2010 or something like that. You know, these people have been longtime Facebook denizens. So it's not like a fly-by-night person who just made up an account in order to sell a guitar. I'm going to go ahead and click on Noah, and I'm going to say, view your profile. I can also see what other stuff he has listed in Marketplace. View your profile, view his profile, I should say. Once again, totally determined by his own privacy settings, but got a picture of him with looks like probably his daughter and a nice little background thing and other photos he's posted. So, you know, I can do a little bit of, he's left his photos public, and I can do a little bit of searching and seeing a little bit about this guy before I go ahead and do a transaction with him. And you know, maybe he's 19 years old and he has face tattoos, or he's 50 years old, he's got a beautiful family. I'm not going to tell you, you know, which one you want to sell to, but point is you can see a little bit about people depending on their personal settings. So I feel a little more comfortable doing a Facebook transaction with the person. That's Marketplace. That's all local stuff. Now, groups, like I said, there are 2 different types of groups. So there is, for example, a Skokie garage sale group. For you guys, there's, I'm sure, I believe there should be, well, let me just do Skokie garage sale. Sometimes there are multiple ones. So it's a Skokie, Evanston, Niles. You do have to ask to be a member of a group. So I would go in, see that there's a Skokie, Evanston, Niles group, I would have to say, please let me join, and then the administrator of the group would have to approve me. So you need to do that before you can post stuff. Like I said, it's actually kind of a little bit up in the air right now as far as how these garage sale groups are working because of coronavirus. And I don't know exactly what's going on, but this is something you can look at kind of in the near future. And then, like I said, you're a Barbie doll collector, or you inherited your parents' old classic Barbie doll collection. I'm gonna search Barbie doll, and I'm gonna click on groups. And here's Barbie, buy, sell, trade, everything related to Barbie. It's another one where I'd have to ask to join. But if I'm looking to get this stuff, and you know what, actually I think there are groups, because I've taught this class so much, I think how I happen to know is there are groups on 60s Barbies, on 50s Barbies, on 70s Barbies, so you can get as specific as you want. But this is specifically for buying and selling. I would have to ask to join the group, and they had 57 posts today. So apparently there's a lot of people buying and selling Barbies. Here you go. Here's one, Barbies from 1959 to 72. So if you have a specific type of thing that you're interested in, and you want to get in front of collectors or people with these similar interests, you can go and search for these groups. There are other ones that are discussion groups where people just talk about stuff, but find one that's listed as a buy and sell group, buy, sell, and trade, join that group, and then buy and sell there. And this will be a national, potentially international audience. I buy and sell music and Blu-rays and DVDs. And so, you know, I'm in those types of groups to get those types of people. This will be an informal thing where somebody will message you. You'll have to decide how they pay you. If they live in California, they'll pay you through PayPal. You can tell them how much it'll cost, how much for shipping. And, you know, you all tend to be collectors. Occasionally there'll be scammers in these groups. They'll get kicked out. But for the most part, you're dealing with people who are just interested in similar things to you. So they're willing to, yeah, for the most part, they're going to be trustworthy because they want to stay a part of these groups. Any questions on Facebook, either groups or marketplace, or the difference between the two? I really like marketplaces. When I just sold that bed and I didn't even show you the form. Let me show you this real quick. Listing something on Marketplace, go into Marketplace, and I want to sell something, sell an item, $200, antique, add photos, and then say next, and that thing ends up getting listed. I guess it wouldn't be a new antique. Well, it might be a new collectible. Already selling antique couch. And hit next and post this thing. So really easy little form to fill out. As I was about to say, when I sold a bed recently, bed frame, and I sold a media console, I elected to do it through eBay. And, you know, within a couple of days, I had people handing me cash and coming to my house and picking this stuff up. Now, somebody asked whether PayPal walks you how to sell through them. PayPal is just an intermediary. So you can set up, you know, I don't know how much it's going to walk you through them, but you set up an account with PayPal, you register a credit card with them. PayPal is free to send friends money. So if you wanted to tip me after this class, you could get my email address, sign up for a PayPal account, and just send me money. But when you're buying goods, they charge in order for you to buy. Well, I shouldn't say that. Depending on how the website is set up. Typically, most websites where you use PayPal, they don't actually charge you. They charge the site itself. But PayPal itself doesn't do any selling through them. PayPal is just an intermediary through either you sending someone else money or you selling on eBay. You'll set up an account with them and then register that account. Either register that account with eBay or use that account as an intermediary. Venmo is also another option for sending people money. Any other questions on Facebook? You convinced? Unfortunately, you do have to be a member of Facebook. And I know whenever I do this class, there are people who aren't in love with that, and you know, I won't criticize you or can't blame you for that. Not everybody has to be on Facebook, but that's just something that they require in order to use it. I feel like I'm starting to lose my voice. I think I'm not used to talking to people with this coronavirus situation. Nextdoor is very local, neighborly. Some of you may have heard of it. This is, you know, the nice thing about Nextdoor is that you need to verify your address in order to be in a Nextdoor community. So when you get on Nextdoor, you can either have somebody sign you up for Nextdoor who's already on it. But the way that a lot of people do it is that they'll go to the Nextdoor website, nextdoor.com, have Nextdoor send them a credit card, and or have Nextdoor send you a card, and you fill it out, and then actually you ask for a card, and then they send it to you to verify your address. You fill it out and send it back in, and that's how they know that your actual address. Quick sideline. Somebody's asking whether your thing shows up on your friend's newsfeed. I believe at this point, the way they have it, they can have it when you post it, either go to Marketplace or your newsfeed, or both. At least that was how they were doing it not long ago. So it doesn't necessarily have to show up on your newsfeed if you don't choose that as an option, if you only choose Marketplace. That was Facebook. They've kind of changed that a little bit. So unless they've changed that recently, you know, Facebook's always a little questionable as far as how they're handling privacy. That's how they did it. They gave you a choice of the multiple places it could go. So back to Nextdoor. You get your address verified by Nextdoor, and then it kind of, not only does it set up kind of small communities for you, it will actually cut up your town into small kind of slivers. So I live in Skokie, and there's about 10 different Nextdoor communities in Skokie. My little school district and all these other different school districts have been divided up, and I can post things to my little school district. I can post things to all of Skokie. I can post things to Skokie and Evanston and Lincolnwood. So they've got kind of various degrees of how much you share, but it does have that real kind of neighborly garage sale feeling. So yeah, a lot of people use it for giving away stuff. If you have crafts and you know you want the local kids to get them, you can go on Nextdoor and say, hey, if anybody wants this, come grab it. But people sell stuff on Nextdoor as well. Once again, very informal. People come by and hand you money. Nextdoor, a lot of people know it for anytime. They have a lot of other kind of discussions. So if you ever, people will see a coyote in your town, and they'll post it to Nextdoor. Every other day, it seems like there's a coyote sighting, and somebody feels compelled to post it to Nextdoor to bring your dog inside. But so they'll have kind of community things, or people will look for recommendations. I just moved here and I need a dentist. Can anyone recommend one on Nextdoor? You know, local neighborly resource. I really like it. It's gotten some good press over the last year, and it seems like something who's kind of come versus Facebook, which is just massive, where you're kind of connecting with your long lost relatives who don't live anywhere near you, or old high school friends. So here's my Nextdoor, and I go in there, and you can see it's got things like people asking about an AT&T outage, or people complaining about dog owners or not complaining about dog owners, all these types of local discussions. These are all very local. So this is somebody in my school district talking about Skokie Fire and Police. Now, over here on the left, you see there's for sale and free. If I click on that, I get all the stuff that people are selling. There's a lot of baby stuff on Nextdoor. There's a PlayStation 2 that actually somebody's giving away. I should go grab that. There's a little playpen. If I wanted that for my baby, who's now 17, I could click on that and say message seller, send them a message, say, I want to offer you $50 for that, and arrange to pick it up. Once again, very local. Another Skokie person, not my little district, but a local person. I'll go ahead and post an item. I can do it in just my little sliver of Skokie. I can do it in Skokie and various neighborhoods, which I can customize, or what's called your broader local area, which I think is Skokie and few surrounding suburbs. So if I'm selling something and I want it to be fairly local, but I want it to get beyond just Skokie itself to a few neighboring towns, I can say my broader local area. They don't really define it. I've tried to look it up, but they kind of use their judgment about how far to go up, which is a little bit annoying. And I'm going to say, you know, baby pen. I don't know. I don't remember if that's what you call them. Like I said, my baby's growing up. Perfect condition, yada, yada, price, $50. I could make it free. Choose a category, add photos, same type of deal as everything else, and post the item. People will get an email, or they can go ahead and search for this stuff. And you know, people get daily emails summarizing everything. They'll just slowly get pushed down the list over time. And I don't know, I don't remember how long they stay up, but they're up for a while. So if you really want that local feel, Nextdoor is a good option for you for selling or giving away stuff. Once again, signing up for Nextdoor, you go to nextdoor.com. You can't just sign up. You do need to either, they have various ways to confirm your address that you actually are where you say you are. Most commonly used one is by sending you a postcard, but they'll do other things, like if you really wanted to, you can give them a picture of your driver's license, or various other kind of identity confirmation options as well. Any questions about Nextdoor? D, that's a good question. I don't know. But that's actually a really good question. I haven't thought of that before. D is asking how you change your address if you move. And you know, I'm guessing that they have some kind of mechanism where you would just have to reconfirm your new address, and similar to before, and then they'll wipe you from the previous one and put you in a new one. I've never thought about that, but that is a good question. They have to have some kind of mechanism built in where you can do that. I haven't moved recently, so I'm not sure. Now, I promised I would breeze through Amazon, and I will. Amazon is there not as an option. It can be found on Google. It's got a catalog of a lot of stuff. Everybody shops for stuff there. Some people will list up there. If you happen to have, people have little stores where they'll buy tons of the supply, and the listing is already on Amazon, so they can list their items under this main listing. You know, I've thought about using Amazon for kind of, I collect CDs, and there are a couple of rare CDs that are out of print and that I have, and Amazon will have a listing out there, but they won't have any for sale because these things are out of print. Unless an actual seller, individual is selling one, then the listing will be there and it'll state that none are available. But as far as Amazon goes, they have their main fee is what's called a referral fee, and that is between 6 and 20% of the cost. That varies based on the category, and they've got a long listing of all these different categories and their various referral fees. You need to look on there before you end up listing, and then a couple other closing fees. Amazon's gotten a lot of flack from individual sellers who feel like Amazon is kind of pushing them out for the bigger sellers, which may be true. Now, there are certainly other options out there. It's interesting, Etsy, I don't know, typically I'll ask when I do this in person, but I'll just say right now that Etsy seems to be, in the coronavirus days, proven to be a really good resource for people. I've been buying stuff on it. Etsy is a marketplace for craft and vintage stuff. For you know, it has both kind of jewelry and clothes and furniture, but it has a lot of homemade stuff. People kind of running little businesses. So what happens is all of a sudden everybody needs to wear a mask. And if you wanted to make masks out of your house, or if you had a big supply of masks that you wanted to sell, Etsy is a good place to list that stuff or to buy that stuff. I bought my son a Green Bay Packers mask. I bought my wife a mask of pigs, and you know, it's just individuals kind of selling stuff. So it's mainly known as something where people will have kind of little crafty businesses. It's a great resource if you're looking for something unique. About a slip cover kind of for my armrest in the center of my car. There, somebody has a whole business where you tell them the model of your car, and they'll show you the fabrics that are available, and you can buy a little custom thing for it. Occasional individual sellers out there listing stuff, and you know, once again, it does tend to be kind of craftier and vintage stuff. Now, Ruby Lane, I have to admit, that's one I haven't used. That it focuses on antiques, fine arts, vintage, jewelry. I'm always very hesitant to recommend places for collectibles and antiques. because you have to be so careful selling that stuff online, because it has to be, you know, confirmed that that thing is what it is. It's an actual. That's why these people do that Antiques Roadshow, right? So they can bring these to dealers and they can say, oh yeah, that actually is worth so much because it was a Renaissance piece of silverware. So if you have a boxing glove signed by Muhammad Ali, you better have some proof that that thing is signed by actual Muhammad Ali, or an antique item. You know, so my feeling, as far as kind of what would make me feel safe personally, is actually dealing with antiques or collectible dealers, because they know what they're doing. Yeah, they'll take a big cut, but maybe that's better than listing something and having people question me about its authenticity. That being said, if you're looking to list that stuff, Ruby Lane is a marketplace that kind of specializes in that stuff. Now, certainly there are competitors for eBay and Craigslist that I haven't mentioned. Here's a few of them. Bonanza is basically an eBay. It's a cheaper eBay, and it's a little bit easier to use. OfferUp and LetGo are two Craigslist competitors, so they're designed for local selling. All three of these I kind of see as millennial-focused ones. They come with apps. Some of them feel more like Pinterest. OfferUp has an identity confirmation system, so the idea is that the more kind of personal information you give them, I think the less expensive it is for you to list stuff with them. Now, OfferUp, I believe I just saw last month that OfferUp is buying LetGo. So it may be that these two continue on as products that can that work together, or they may end up being a combined version. I haven't seen anything about that, but OfferUp is buying LetGo, so we'll see what that is. You know, these are out there, so there are options for you. If you're willing to give them a try, they've gotten some good press. It feels like they don't have the audience that some of these other ones have, but maybe, I don't know, maybe if you're looking for a younger millennial audience, they're going to these places. Shopify, if you're setting up an online store, Shopify is a good way to create a website that's specifically built around selling. There are other options for those as well, and since I don't really focus on stores per se, I won't really get into that. Selling clothes, ThredUp is a consignment store. You basically send them a whole bag of old clothes. We did this with a bunch of my son's old clothes. Rather than listing all of his things on eBay and selling them for $5 a piece, send them a bag. Well, they give you the bag, and then you send them the bag, and then they list it for you. The stuff they sell, they give you a percentage of. If they don't sell it, then they give that clothes to charity, which I wasn't crazy about because I don't get the write-off. They do. But if you certainly have stuff that they're able to sell, then you know they're a consignment middleman for you that will actually sell stuff for you. Poshmark is another first sale site for clothing. The RealReal's luxury goods. They've got a lot of press recently, and they're actually opening up. Well, maybe it's when coronavirus is over. They had announced that they're opening up brick and mortar stores, and you know you've got that Gucci purse, or I'm assuming Gucci makes purses. I don't know, Prada, whatever, Prada shoes. You've got this good stuff at home. You decided that you're not really using it as much as you should. The RealReal confirms that these things are actually what you say they are. They'll go ahead and inspect them and make sure that they're not. They've got a little flack because some stuff has passed through that has been rip-off goods, knockoff goods, but for the most part, they're trustworthy for this stuff. And then there are certainly other niche sites out there. If you want to sell tickets, StubHub lets you list your tickets and sell it online. AutoTrader for cars. Swappa, if you've got old electronics and you want to sell your older iPhone, there's a big market out there since Apple's new iPhones are so expensive. Swappa will mail you a box. You say what condition the phone is or whatever other electronics you have, mail it to Swappa, and then they'll send it for you and they give you a set amount when you send it in, depending on its condition. So when you're listing the stuff, you do want to make sure that you include lots of pictures. You point out flaws that are visible or not visible in the item. Include anything that people may be searching for, keywords. You want to make sure that people can find the stuff that you're listing out there. People will contact you through the listing mechanism. You do want to respond to them and answer their questions quite promptly. Now, officially, eBay says ship within 7 days, which feels like a long time to me, but eBay is not going to really get involved until after 7 days. My recommendation is you ship within 3 days. I think that's kind of what people expect. But you won't get in trouble as a seller until longer. Now, that being said, I've had situations where I've bought something on eBay and somebody said, hey, I'm on vacation, I'll send it to you when I get back. And I say, that's fine. But the point is, them as the seller, they're communicating with me. And so I know that that's the case, and it worked out fine. Now, make sure you overpack these things, that nothing gets broken. You could use the UPS store if you really are, it's worth a lot and you're really worried about mailing the stuff, although that will cost a certain amount of money for you to do it. Craigslist, Facebook, and Nextdoor, you do need to mark these items as sold, or else people are going to keep contacting you about them. Cash and PayPal, or Venmo too, really the only safe options that are out there. We already talked about meeting safe places. At a certain point, you will be potentially giving them your email or a phone number for something like Craigslist. Now, most of the services come with package tracking at this point. Even media mail at this point comes with package tracking. So when you print out the postage, you'll get the tracking number, and the person who bought it will get the tracking number as well. So there's really not a whole lot of doubt. If you're really nervous about this thing, it's worth a lot. If you want to know that somebody's not going to say that they didn't get it, you can require signature. I wouldn't do that as a rule, because if you think about when you've gotten stuff and it's required a signature and you haven't been home and you've had to go to the post office, it's a little annoying. So, use that at your discretion, but there's an option. Now, most of these services come with some type of insurance, a basic level of insurance. The Postal Service, they give $50 insurance, I believe, with your eBay sale. Once you become a more seasoned seller, then they up that to $100 of insurance. You could buy more if you feel like you need insurance. UPS and FedEx offer $100 insurance, and you can buy more if you need it. eBay also has their own insurance as like a competitor to the Postal Service. I've never had to use claim insurance, but I hear horror stories about people trying to claim insurance from the Postal Service. And supposedly the one that eBay offers, which is called ShipCover, that is a little bit better for fulfilling claims. I haven't tried either one. Luckily, I haven't had to try either one. And then make sure, going along with shipping insurance, that you take pictures of everything before it leaves your house, when it's in the box, just to show that this thing was actually packed really well and that what you put in there is what people wanted from you. Well, my voice has barely made it, but I'm willing to answer any questions you guys have. Like we said at the beginning, these are going to be posted online. I don't know if, Kristen, I don't know if you want to type something up or if you're going to email people with this information, or just tell them now, whatever you want. As far as getting it online.
Yeah, I do, because all of you registered, I do have your email address, so I would be happy to send that link out once we've got it uploaded and ready to go. So absolutely, and I would expect we could get that done in a couple days. So yes, we'll be sending you that link.
So what other questions do you all have for me? And certainly don't feel obliged. Thank you. Thank you all. So I hope you like this as a format. I teach all over Chicago, and a lot of the libraries and other places I teach are starting to do this Zoom format. And man, if any of you invested in Zoom, it's a public company. If any of you invested in it last October or November, I think you would have done all right, because this company seems to be really taking advantage of our situation right now. But it at least from my perspective, it seems to be working well, and I hope it works well for you. Well, thank you all for attending. You know what? My email is on the screen in front of you, I believe, mike@bspchicago.com. So certainly, if you have any kind of further questions, go ahead and email me there, and I will get back to you. But I do appreciate you all taking time out of your evening and coming. Hope you found that useful.
Thank you, Mike, and thank you everyone for attending, and we'll hopefully see some of you at our next Zoom webinar. Good night.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.